Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Sunny. So today, my friends, it's just me and you. I don't have my videographer with me, so I apologize for the drop in quality. I'm using an iPhone 7 Plus for the time being. The audio might not be as good, but I figured it was better to give you a video than to not do one at all. So just bear with me. When I can afford a camera, I will buy one, trust me. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cook yellow squash in the best way possible. So Colorado is producing these incredible yellow squash. It's one thing we get in the summer that we always look forward to. I'm sure you can see the color of this thing. It's insane. So what we want to do first is just to take the tops off. Not all of them. We're going to be leaving a little bit on there. Hold it straight. Knife right in between. And just pull through. Right? Let's do another one. So you just want to keep the tip of your knife. Look, I can start with my tip right there and just pull through, keeping the tip on the ground and working my way down with my fingers. You want these to be nice and flat so you can get a really good color on them when you cook them. Now that they're all cut in half, the next step we're going to do is to score them with a nice little crosshatch. So I would just keep your thumb down here at the bottom, holding that in place, and I'm going to use my finger to guide. And I'm just going in like not much at all, maybe 1/5 of an inch back the other way. And so what this is going to help with is to allow the salt, which you'll see in a minute, penetrate into the flesh of the squash. So now that we've done that nice little crosshatch on our squash, we're going to season them. But remember, we always want to season from up high. We don't want to get close to it. You're just going to get it too salty in one spot and not in the other. So, I don't know, 2-3 feet, right? And just start raining down. You can already feel here how the salt is beginning to pull the moisture to the surface of the flesh of the squash. And so the water from the squash is actually starting to dissolve the salt, and what it's doing is giving us a nice rounded seasoning for this. So that was kosher salt I just used. We're going to cook them. When they come out of the oven, we're going to finish with a little Maldon salt, finishing salt. And that's that. I've got a nice heavy saute pan going over high heat. We're going to add some canola oil to that. It's got a high smoke point. You could try grapeseed or another kind of high smoke point oil. You wouldn't want to use olive oil because the flavor of it is going to shift. It won't be nearly as good when it reaches about 250, 260. So I would use a high flash point cooking oil. Canola oil going in here. You want to use quite a lot of oil as we're kind of shallow frying these. Oil's nice and hot. You want to put these in very carefully. So what we're looking for here is just a little bit of color around the edges of these. By the way, these little palette knives, these are not just for pastry, man. I love these things. So you want to peek under. We're not getting any color yet, so let those roll. As you can see now, look how beautiful with that crosshatch, really pronounced. And you see this green underneath, really gorgeous. So this is the color that we're looking for, guys. Just a little bit, but not too much, and I'll show you why. Because they're going to stay on the flesh side. They're going straight into a 400-degree oven. Make sure you keep them on the bottom where the heating element is, right? So they're going to get that beautiful brown crust on that flesh side. Incredible. About 20-25 minutes in here. So while our squash is cooking, I'm going to be showing you how to make a little tomato concasse. It's very easy to make. It has a lot of applications, and it's going to be the topping for our roasted squash. Check it out. I've got these gorgeous heirloom tomatoes from the market, so we'll be using these for our concasse. So what we're going to do is called X's and I's on these tomatoes, and I think a good way to do this is to hold your knife like this. I'm using a petty knife. And so by getting my thumb and forefinger further down on the knife, it's just giving me more control to just take these cores out. So I'll never forget when my brother worked at St. John's in London. Amazing chef, Fergus Henderson, look him up, shout out to him. I went up there to work for free one day, and he asked me to do X's and I's on the tomatoes, and I had no idea what he was talking about. So that's your I, and the X right here is just in the bottom. Just make a small X. I messed that up a little bit, and it should be smaller, right? You just need a little tiny incision here, just like this, right? And that's going to help us to peel the tomato once we blanch it for our concassé. So I've got some hot water going here. It's almost at a simmer. We're going to go ahead and drop in our heirloom tomatoes. This whole process is going to be really fast, maybe 30, 40 seconds tops, right? And I'll show you how we tell in a second here. You know, and as they're different sizes, they may be done at different times. This one's done, right? See how that skin's coming right off? Straight into the ice water. And depending on the ripeness of the tomato, the skin may peel at a different time, so you just have to check them individually. Just don't put too many in at one time. See that? Coming right off. Done. And the final one going in the ice water. Now we want to leave these in the ice water for maybe 30 seconds, a minute tops. We don't want to leave them in there too long. They could get waterlogged. We're just trying to stop that cooking process. So as you can see here, these skins are just easily coming off. Our tomato's not cooked. This is all we wanted to do, right? We've already cored it. You want to core it before and not after because it's just really slippery now, right? So our next step is going to be to quarter these. I'm just trying to remove some of the seeds here. You know, and sometimes you can just go ahead and squeeze it out into a bowl, just gently, right? See all the seeds coming out there. And we want to do that with our quartered or half tomatoes, and then we'll move on to the next step. So I'm just going to be using a chef's knife for this. Begin slicing them across. So now we want to get these going the other way. And just start running our knife through them. I'm just using a chef's knife here, guys. Now at this point, we can go ahead and season this a little little kosher salt. This is going to help to draw out some more moisture from the tomatoes because we'll be straining them in a minute. You could really make this as chunky or as small as you like. This is something that can be used in a variety of ways, whether you're making a stew or a soup or in an application like this where we're going to kind of dry it out and then add some vinegar, some oil, some herbs, some shallots. And that'll be the topping for our squash. So I'm gonna add these into a mesh strainer. Usually I would use cheesecloth, but I just ran out. But this will work. So we're gonna let it sit in there, and the moisture is gonna come out, especially because we added that salt. Because right now it's very wet, so we wanna remove a lot of that moisture, and then we will proceed to the next step. Ollie's wondering who the hell I've been talking to this whole time, because he knows it's not him. So these have been in the oven for 20 minutes, right? Took a little shorter than I thought because they're smaller, but look at this, guys. This is why you wanted to keep it on that flesh side. I mean, God. So the texture of these, it's gonna have some bite on the outside, but when you get in there, oh my God, it's like a pudding. So our concassé has been draining for 20 minutes. We're left with quite a bit of liquid. You know, I don't really drink, but if you want to make a Bloody Mary with that, I bet it would be really good. So we're going to empty our drained concassé into a bowl. So a concassé is usually made with shallots and parsley, I believe, but I'm going to be doing basil in mine. It's just a little something different that I do and that I like. But, you know, something to note here is you could use whatever herb or you like. You know, you don't have to just stick to the basics. So kind of freestyle your concassé. So I'm just going to slice up half of a large shallot. I used to have to do this quite a lot. Brunoise shallot. Right? You only want to cut it once, each way you're doing it. Right? Going straight into our concassé. So we're just going to chiffonade a little basil to go into our concassé. And you do this by finding Kind of want to go for the big leaves, right? Just get all those. Looks like plenty there. So we're going to start with the biggest leaf with the less green side right here facing up. Lay that down. And then go for a leaf that looks like it's the second biggest, right? Third biggest, right? Fourth, fifth, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now you want to roll this up. I live in Colorado, so I'm pretty good at this. Right? And then we're just going to slice through once. Very small. I'm just using my index finger to guide my knife along. And we'll go all the way through. You never want to cut basil more than once, because it will bruise, no matter how sharp your knife is. Straight into the concassé. Now I'm going to be using a little bit of red wine vinegar. This is going to be the acidic element to all that fat we have in the squash, right? A lot of fat in there. A little bit of olive oil just to cut through that. You might want to put a pinch more salt, but you don't need much, as we already seasoned those tomatoes. Now just give it a nice stir. Right? Taste. Always taste. Yum. Tastes good. So our squash is done roasting. Our concassé is finished. I'm going to go ahead and plate it up. Okay, let's plate up. Just lay your squash across. Oh my God, these look insanely good. Concassé. You want to leave a little bit of that squash so you can see, right? Right across the middle. Delicious. Just use what you need. Some finishing salt. Maldon. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this looks so freaking good, man. The color on the squash is blowing my mind. Let's give it a taste. By the way, big shout out to Thomas Keller. This is his dish. He taught me how to make it. I don't know who he learned it from, but you know, cooking is passed down knowledge, so I just tweaked the concassé a little bit, and I feel like you should do the same. Make it your own. The texture of this when it goes in your mouth, and it's like, it holds its shape, but I feel like if you were just to like shake it on a plate, it would just splatter everywhere. That's how tender they are, and the inside is like a pudding. It's incredible. You know, and I'm so lucky here in Colorado because these yellow squash that we get, we just have the right climate, and they are just like some of the best I've ever tried in the world. Well, that's it for today, my friends. If you enjoyed the content, please leave me a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, well, what are you waiting for, man? We're going to the moon.